Where were you stationed when you were operational?
So nearby to where our Scanton is in Lincolnshire.
And then you're on that squadron, and now you're with the Red Arrows. And are most of the Red Arrows from the fighter line?
It's a mix. So at the moment on the team, we have ex-Harrier pilots, Typhoon pilots, Tornado GR4 pilots in there. So a little bit of mix of fighter and what we would call ground attack
On attack, yeah.
kind of backgrounds. So any fast jet background can be a precursor to joining the Red Arrows. As the Royal Air Force has moved now to having the Typhoon and the Joint Strike Fighters, it's two frontline kind of aircraft. We'll see more and more. It'll just be guys from the kind of that multi-role fighter aircraft background. But there's a couple of Harrier guys on the team right now.
Okay, so you wouldn't find anybody else like maybe flown in the transport line or something. They have to have come from fast jets in order to fly for the Red Arrows.
Yeah, so you have to have been a frontline fast jet pilot to apply for the Red. So it's all ex-fighter mates.
And the Red Arrows, you don't do any instruction while apart from teaching the Red Arrows, new Red Arrows coming in.
The team does have a QFI, so there's always a qualified flying instructor on the team. It's a kind of prerequisite role, and because a lot of the time Red Arrows have been instructors in the past, and a lot have been instructors on the Hawk T1, that is actually quite an easy position to fulfill because there'll always be somebody who has been that qualification in the past. So we have the QFI who will be responsible for the first 2 or 3 trips as you come here. So we first of all go to 100 Squadron, who do they still teach advanced jet training on the Hawk T1. We'll do a package with those guys up there before then kind of converting down here onto the Red Arrows. We do 3 or 4 arrival trips with the team QFI, and then we'll do an arrival check with the team leader, so with Red 1. So we have the benefit that the Hawk is a dual cockpit, so we can always have the guy in the back. We'll do the arrival check with the team leader, and then the majority of the time we're in the aircraft solo, doing the majority of the manoeuvres. First time is actually in the jet on your own. When we go to maybe the more advanced manoeuvres, so for example, the first year we'll always do rollbacks, which is something that Enid always do in the second half of the show. It's quite an advanced manoeuvre. We leave it to the end of their kind of winter training, and we will then sit in the back seat of Enid for their first go at rollbacks, just to give a bit of a demo, and then their go at it. So myself, I'm not a qualified flying instructor. I don't have a instructor background, but I've flown a lot with with Enid, just that back seating, giving my tips from the previous year in that position.
Now, so how many hours a year are you flying for the Red Arrows?
That differs depending on tours and the like. So at the moment, I would say we're about 200 hours maybe a year, maybe a little bit more, depending on tours and what kind of shows we've had. So actually, as a year goes as a military pilot, it's actually quite good for the amount of flying we get.
I suppose it's mainly aerobatic flying, formation aerobatic flying.
It is, yes. So actually today we've just come back from a week's leave, a mid-season leave. So today we've all gone off as singletons and gone and practiced those core skills. So we've gone off and done instrument flyings, stalls, practice PFL, so practice force landings. So we've all gone off on our own for an hour just to ease back into flying, practice those core skills. So should we find ourselves needing to use them, we have them. But we're back into formation flying tomorrow, back into a display practice. So we do, the majority of our flying is the formation display flying, but we every month at least will go off and have a dedicated sortie to keep those core flying skills well honed.
Now, are you going to practice every day for the next couple of weeks?
In winter training, we'll we have the building block approach. So when we start in winter training, we go up as a 3 ship and then build to a 5, and we build up to that 9 ship, and we'll fly 3 waves a day, but that could be each wave in winter training split into kind of 2. So it's actually almost 6 waves a day where Enid will go up as a 3 ship and Jippo will go up, and we'll practice that. But by the time we get to about January, we're flying 9 ships, January, February time, and it'll be 3 times a day, 5 days a week during winter training that we get up to practice the display. That then culminates with the Spring Hawk, like I say, where we go away to Greece for 6 weeks, where we keep that tempo of 3 times a day, 5 days a week, to get to that kind of that perfect display flying that we're always aiming for. But I'll say now, there is no such thing as a perfect Red Arrows display. There is always something we can get better at. But we get to that standard for what we call a PDA, so Public Display Authority. That is where the Chief of the Air Staff or his delegate effectively says we are of a standard, safety primarily, but actually of a standard that the Red Arrows has built over the years to go and display to the public. So we're constantly aiming for that pinnacle, being awarded the red suits. It's where we change from the green suits into the red suits to show that we've reached that accolade of being awarded PDA. We can then go and display to the public. Once we get into the summer, it gets a little bit different. So we will, obviously, we have all the shows. We do lots of fly past, which is not actually the display flying, but flying over London, let's say, for the Queen's birthday fly past. And then during that summer period, we'll also then practice back at Scampton if it's been maybe a few days since we've done a display. So we'll always come back and make sure we practice a display. And there's set criteria that if we've not done a display for a week or so, then we have to do a practice before going back to displaying with a crowd there. So we're constantly, every week, we'll be doing a display at least, or a practice display, keeping that standard that we were at during Springhawk ticking over for the season.
Have you ever had a team, the same team for, say, 2 or 3 years? Or is there every year is somebody leaving and somebody coming in?
Normally every year somebody, at least one person, possibly 2 to 3 people, and move on and then move out, and then people come in, because you want that experience in the team, like I described earlier about moving to the harder positions on the outside, so new guys come in and fill those closer in positions. So there is normally 1, 2 or 3 people that move on, so keeping the team, that kind of freshness of the team moving on, but also keeping that experience. So it's just whatever suits the team and is the most sensible decision for the next year is what we go with.
It's been fantastic talking to you. Thank you for making the time, and I wish you all the best for the future. And one last parting question, you don't have to answer it if you don't want to, but is team lead something that you may look at in the future?
Yeah, I don't think anybody in the Reds, I think once they leave, they want back. So the team leader is the position they'll all look for. So yeah, I think it's something that I would definitely consider doing, but it's just a privilege to be part of the Red Arrows for the 2 years I've been in. So after next year, if I leave and never come back, then it's something that's great, that it'll just be a lasting memory of the Royal Air Force for me.